Okay, everyone, we're live, getting ready for the Maduro trial. So let me pull that up and we can share that screen and talk about Maduro and his wife. Okay.
Whilst there are some risks to Venezuela's oil production being taken offline in the very near month or so because of this blockade continuing, realistically, there is a major oil supply glut generally for 2026 expected across the globe. And that is going to exert more downward pressure on the oil price than this Venezuela situation. So irrespective of this situation, we see prices going down to the downside in the coming few weeks and months.
Talk to us about the heavy variety of crude oil that Venezuela has. Again, Paul touched on it in his piece. This oil is of particular value to the US. How easy is it, for example, to transport this oil, to process it? Because that's the issue, isn't it? It needs processing.
It does need processing. It also needs extracting in the first instance. And again, as Paul mentioned, it is heavy, thick, sour oil, which is very difficult to extract, or relatively difficult to extract. And it is more difficult to transport and to process, etc. But the US refineries are actually set up to process heavier grades of crude oil. This sort of crude oil that Venezuela produces is perfect for US oil refineries. Interestingly, US itself produces a wide range of crude oil grades, but a lot of light crude oil, and so it has to export significant quantities of the oil that it produces in the US and import heavy crude oil from other countries like Canada, Mexico, and elsewhere. Having access to Venezuelan oil does mean that this would be an advantage to US oil refineries, and it could potentially help to lower costs to some degree. But again, the volumes are very small from Venezuela right now. It will take a number of years for those increased quantities to really have a material positive impact for the US oil refining system.
And just taking a step back a little bit from this decision, what's been very clear from President Trump and his politics is that he is a fan of fossil fuels. He believes in the future. That is the future of. He believes in the future. That is the future of energy, of electricity, of fueling the demand for products in the electricity, of fueling the demand for products in the rest of the world. What impact does this have on renewable technologies? Do you think this cements oil and things like
the train is fast, and the way fast and the way cheaper. They wanted to they do railroad that's the train, and they put them in trains. It's like yeah, just next. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they make that stuff like that.
Well, it doesn't look like a lot's happening here. I mean, I wonder why AP just plants itself outside its
I saw you with sweat. We are. Yeah, they will come after me. You know that. I'm Latino American. You're a white guy. They don't care what. They come after me, brother. It's amazing. You know what I have? Drive around, nice safe, look like they can stop you. We go down to the Supreme. Is that okay?
Well, while we wait for that, let's go into how the Delta Force captured Maduro.
Perimeter, turning night into day. By the time the dust settled, you create a masterclass in deception. The CIA set the stage with a single building of 50 aircraft to create a deafening sonic shield for the helicopters to drop Delta forces. F-35s lit up the perimeter, turning night into day. Helicopters had already touched down and Maduro was gone. We'll also look at how the U.S. uses the F-35 jets and its Navy to launch a large-scale attack, all in the video ahead. In the dead of night that is 2 in the morning, the lights went out in Caracas. By 5 a.m., the president of Venezuela was gone. But how U.S. played a deception games. While the whole world were focused on the aircraft carriers in the Caribbean, a shadow war was being fought on the ground. This wasn't an invasion, it was a surgical extraction. We finally have the declassified timeline of how U.S. forces breached the heart of Caracas and extracted Nicolas Maduro.
Here's the timeline.
Let's start with step 1.
Good.
The setup. This didn't happen overnight. For months, the U.S. had been tightening a naval quarantine around Venezuela. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and the U.S. Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group were parked off the coast. The pretext was clear. The U.S. designated the Venezuelan government a narco-terrorist state, specifically targeting the drugs lords. But while the Navy squeezed the coast, intelligence assets were tracking one man. They waited for a specific window, a moment where Maduro was stationary and vulnerable. Step 2, the strike. It began at exactly 2 in the morning Venezuelan Standard Time. High above, several F-35 stealth fighters punch a hole through the enemy lines, destabilizing their anti-air defenses. Like these Russian S-300 missiles located all over the strategic high-value target. With the skies cleared, the path opens for Delta Force helicopters to fly straight towards the mission. Here comes the deception as the helicopters flew. The jets started firing with more strikes as it hit Fort Tuna, the main military base and command center, and La Carlota Air Base, destabilizing Venezuelan air support. Reports from the ground described widespread explosions and a sudden communications blackout. The chaos wasn't the goal, it was the cover. But how did the raid happen? We have to look at step 3. Under the cover of darkness and chaos, the Tier 1 operators went to work. But what is the exact unit tasked with the mission? It is the Delta Force, one of the most elite secretive special forces units in the U.S. military. Witnesses in Caracas reported low-flying aircraft skimming the rooftops, flying well below radar coverage. The team breached a secure compound believed to be a safe house within the massive Fort Tuna complex. Resistance from the Venezuelan Presidential Guard was swift but ultimately futile, as the helicopters lay cover fire. The operators moved with surgical speed, landing on multiple points. But how exactly the capture and extraction happened? For this, let's look at step 4. Specialized helicopters hovered over the objective to insert the assault team. While dozens of attack helicopters laid down suppression fire, the Delta Special Forces descended and started the search for the high-value targets. How did they find him? Simple. The CIA had planted spy inside Nicolás Maduro close circle. While back in the US, Delta Force built an exact replica of his safe house, rehearsing the raid until they could do it blindfolded. While operators breached the room so fast, his security could not even react to the situation as the sound of flash grenades disoriented the security guard. Using blowtorch, they caught him before he could even lock all the doors. Maduro's shock and awe froze him as Delta Force reached the compound. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, were physically secured. This wasn't a negotiation. They were detained and immediately moved to the extraction point. These aircraft are capable of performing urban extractions from buildings and refueling in midair. Within minutes, they were airborne, leaving Venezuelan airspace and heading to a secure floating staging base in the Caribbean. This Operation Southern Spear has changed the geopolitical map of South America overnight. But wait before after the extractions, there were reports of F-35 jets also leading the tip of the spear for the attack. We'll look how the United States used F-35 jets instead of X-16s for operations in Venezuela, because this is a well-organized and militarized Venezuela has positioned advanced Russian S-300 missile systems, Chinese radar networks, integrated Russian air defenses, and Shahed drones along its borders.
Yeah, interesting.
This creates a highly lethal and challenging environment that older S-16s would struggle to
China was
survive.
involved in there. Russia was involved.
As stated, around 150 aircrafts and a massive 8 U.S. destroyers were stationed there. It also has 3 amphibious aircraft carrier and surveillance plane to turn it into a massive command and control juggernaut capable of overcoming a modern military's air defenses.
See what we can see. Let's go back out and see what's going on at the courthouse. I don't think much is going on though. I think I'll come back to this after. If there's nothing here, maybe we'll come back when they start talking. I mean, when the press or whatever, I'm sure there'll be a press release afterwards. Coming going in New York City.
I apologize. You okay? Yes. Yeah, the mayor's like